Bienvenue. Welcome to another episode of the Chez Parlay podcast. Today, I have an exceptional friend and colleague of mine of a couple years. We were introduced. He was new into town. A lot of journeys are harder to take when you take the higher road. You could be bad. You could be serving fast food to your community and get a quick dollar, but this man decided to choose a different route. And I think, one, that's extraordinary in today's society. And secondly, especially when you come from the West Coast to the East Coast. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce the man, the legend, Josh of Boom Chia.
Dope intro.
Thank you. Thank you.
So legit.
Thank you, man.
I'm so humble to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man.
I know you had like several movers and shakers in the entertainment industry already. So like
Yeah.
for me to be here is like super humbling.
No, I think it's important because, I mean, we've had DJs, we've had directors, and now I would like to say you're like the first entrepreneur in your,
But your audience might be fooled that I'm also an entertainer or in the industry. So let's address the sunglass issue.
You could be. I feel like you're popular in your own.
No, this is not my steez, man. Let's address the sunglass issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
so I have some really bad winter eczema, and there's a lot of redness around my eyes. And first and foremost, knowing that you're in the videography industry, I was like, this shit's gonna be like 16K if there even is a thing.
So you heard it first.
If it was like 1080, I would be like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep the shades off, just be normal. They're probably not gonna see much.
But
of
look
it,
how dope you look. Like Josh told me, he's like, I'm coming with the sunglasses, but then he pulled out not like some regular sunglasses. He pulled out Gentle Monsters, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna come with the Dior's and just like match that energy. So I love that.
Hey, I hail from South Korea, so I had to represent my brand, man. We're blowing up these days. You guys gotta check out the Gentle
South
Monsters.
Korean culture in general. You're right. It's become so popular between Squid Game on kind of like the horror aspect. I mean, you guys have always held down horror series and stuff like that. But shout out to South Korea in general. I don't know about North Korea. We gotta work on that. But yeah, man, South Korea. I definitely want to get into that about like you being Korean, choosing the career you did.
Right.
Maybe like how your family got here and how you made it to the East Coast.
Right.
Just give me a little bit of background of like, Josh and like, your journey of.
Yeah, so I was born in Seoul, South Korea. I actually moved to the United States when I was one. I was pretty much born and raised in Seattle, Washington. So I tell people I'm basically born here. I'm basically American. And I lived there for 18 years. Then I decided to come out to college here in New York, the metropolitan area. So I went to St. John's for 4 years, got my bachelor's.
Beautiful.
Was in and out of the state a few times, lived in Southern California for a little bit, moved back up to Seattle. Had some spurts in Baltimore, the Fort Worth, Dallas area. And, I'm back here again.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I'm always watching your timeline. I feel like outside of a couple people, you're like one of those people that really get immersed in your travels.
Yeah.
And like I get to enjoy it through you.
Yeah.
So like I know you just went to Brazil.
Right.
You've been to Colombia. You've been to Ecuador.
Yeah. So I think I've been to about like 65 countries so far.
65 countries.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So this is more on your pleasure side outside of doing business.
Yes, I'm like a hardcore just work and then travel type of person.
I like
don't have
that.
really anything in between. I don't like it, but that's the only thing
I hear so many beautiful things about like, Washington, Seattle, especially like you guys call it the Redwoods?
Oh, no.
No.
That's Northern California.
That's Northern California.
We call it the Pacific Northwest.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I hear so many great things. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's home to you, but did you, outside of your travels, like where's a place that you could see yourself like settling down?
I mean, I took it for granted my entire life living there.
Okay.
It's usually like that when you're a kid. There's not much to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it from the outside in, like I'm kind of like, wow, like that was probably one of the best places I could have ever lived.
Wow.
So I think back and I'm like, you know what, my family's still over there. And I'm like, if I were to retire, like I would definitely want to go back to that.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
I'm really happy to have you here.
This is so legit, man. I think there were times where, you know, we were talking that you said you would one day want to do a podcast. And I was just like, dude, like if anyone's going to make it happen, Rich is going to make it happen.
Thank you, man. Thank you. No, it's like, I really feel like, you know, just putting things into action is like half the battle. Like I always say, sometimes we make a feather feel like a brick.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, and it's like it's heavier in our mind than it is just picking it up, you know? So like,
damn, this guy's the master at metaphors, man. I learned so much from you just from those metaphors. And
I appreciate it.
Your communication skills is top notch.
That's one thing I like, you know, I was looking forward to this podcast in specific because we've always had like a nice flow of just having discussions. Like it was like midday, I'd come in for, you know, a Boom Chia.
Yeah.
And like we just had like real life talks or, you know, something funny once in a while. Like,
it was like enriching the body and also enriching the mind at the same time, but it's not like we were trying.
No. I feel like we had like a nice natural connection from the jump, and like there was just you know, like a nice understanding of like, you know, who we are.
Right.
So
yeah, man.
Tell me a little bit again. You were raised in Washington. How did you come across more like this entrepreneur? This is what I'm gonna do type of lifestyle?
Well, you know, to start, I'm an immigrant, so like I'm a second generation immigrant, and I grew up under immigrant parents. People usually know how that is. It's very, very strict. You know, they kind of want to drive the course of your career towards a certain direction, like be a doctor, you know, a lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I grew up under a very smart brother who's 3 years older than me. And, you know, he went to all the Ivy League colleges, and he was the role model, you know, child in terms of an immigrant. And, you know, growing up in that situation, you know, I always felt kind of dumb. You know, I felt like I was not equipped with, you know, the abilities that my brother had and other kids had that were my age. And, you know, it felt as if though like I was kind of useless. And, you know, the more and more I kind of had my individual life outside of, you know, growing up under my parents when I went to college and that, I started to kind of really realize what I was good at. Okay. And, you know, it wasn't until like I had my first kind of like unofficial sales job. We ran a bubble tea business out of my sophomore dorm room.
Oh, wow.
I never told you about this.
No. I love this.
It was highly illegal.
Did you have the machine that still like puts the plastic on top of the cup?
Yes. We did. And you know, we had designated people doing designated things. Like one of my roommates was just in charge of just making the ice. Wow. I at the time was just in charge of making the tapioca. And then, you know, we had one of my roommates. He was the one who was the head of operations. He ran the whole joint. We failed probably every like health, like dorm.
Inspection type of
inspections. You know, the dorm, the RA comes around.
Yeah, exactly.
And we failed all of those. We had to hide everything at that time.
What was the business called?
I forgot. Yeah,
you forgot.
It was just a bubble tea business.
Okay.
And we were just slinging bubble teas to people in classes, like in between classes.
That's why I said like earlier, like while introducing you, it's like you can take the high road or you could just like sell drugs out of your dorm, and you chose bubble tea over Coke. And you know what? I appreciate that. I appreciate
that. Yeah,
that.
dude. I mean, we had to make ends meet, and it was a cool, creative way to do it. Yeah. And you know, I learned a lot from that experience because like I ended up being like the top salesperson for that job. Wow. And I just remember making like, I think it was like $90 in like a span of a month, which is not a lot. But this was again back in like 2009. And the other roommates who were also working with me, they were also jealous. They're like, why did Josh get that fat paycheck? And you know, I got freaking $7. And I'm just like, bro, I was busting my freaking ass. Like literally every second I had outside of classes and doing homework, I was slinging bubble tea.
Do you feel that like, again, I mentioned it on the podcast a couple of times, like I feel like when a Dominican comes to this country, like they know how to open businesses and do it better than some people from America. And I'm not saying that you're not like American, like for sure you're American, but I'm saying having that, you know, like I know like my Indian friends, their parents go hard on them, and, you know, Korean families, like almost Asian culture in general, right? So like, does that push you as like somebody in the back of your mind, like I can't give up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what the success is with, immigrants coming to this country is they select one, kind of industry and then they
Okay.
just kind of stick with it,
Yeah.
get their whole family involved, whether it's like, Indians with gas stations, Koreans with nail salons, there's always kind of like a designated business.
Absolutely.
And, I think it's just consistency and just staying focused and
Okay.
like, that's what we're good at.
Yeah, I know for sure. It was there like something within those first couple of businesses like that like really felt like failures, like outside of maybe things going wrong or like losing a business. Was there something like a first business heartache for you?
I would say, a lot of the sales jobs that I did, outside of the bubble tea sales job was it was a harsh reality
Mm.
because real estate, for example. I got
Okay.
into commercial real estate right after college. I thought it would be an instant success, and then I
Mm.
realized like, most people who get into real estate, there's a very low barrier to entry. That's why people get into it,
True.
but they realize like they're not really deep down true salespeople.
Yeah, I feel like realty and the American dream are like parallels,
Yeah,
where it's kind of like people tell you, man, oh man, it's so
yeah,
there's so much earnings in it and stuff
right,
like
right,
that,
right,
but you
right.
really have to be about it. You can't like just give it like a fast paced start and then
Exactly.
you got to stay on that trajectory.
I
Like
don't know what the real statistic is, but I'm pretty sure like 9 out of 10 people in the first year drop out of real estate just because,
absolutely.
and only a small percentage of those guys like really
Yeah,
succeed.
yeah, yeah.
Because again, most people aren't cut out to be salespeople. So that was like kind of like my first harsh reality. I did real estate for a year and a half, and I was just like, I suck at this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I out of good fortune, like I was able to kind of owner finance my own laundromat in the Bronx,
Yes.
Yonkers, Bronx area. And that was kind of like my first dibble dabble with my own business. I went from there.
Tell me how that came about. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, I was able to pretty much do like a 90% financing deal. It was straight out of luck.
okay.
When I was doing real estate, I had a pocket listing. And it was the laundromat that I eventually bought. And the owner couldn't sell the business because he didn't pay any taxes on it.
Oh, wow.
So he had to find someone that he could get 100% cash from. And at the time, he couldn't find a buyer. So he was just like, you know what? Let me make this guy my protege. I know if he's good enough, he'll pay me back within the span of like 3-4 years. And that's how it came about. So at the time, it was like $500,000. I put very minimal down, and then
What age were you when this happened?
I was literally 22.
How does it feel like handling money like that at that
Bro,
age?
it was just cash, pen on paper, bookkeeping, and like it was pretty easy actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, doing a legitimate business like the right way, I realize it's a lot harder.
Yeah, right. Because there's so many, like literally when they say checks and balances and like really like making sure all your T's are crossed and your
Yeah.
I's are dotted, it's different.
No, that business inherently is just super unofficial,
Yeah. It seems there's always like this little bit of like what's going on in the background. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, when I first came across your business, it was like a big premiere to me because you bought one of the largest storefronts on Bloomfield Ave in Montclair,
Mhm.
and it was whether you wanted to notice it or not, it said Boom Chia. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know if it was gonna be a dope sneaker store or like but it ended up being a health conscious, organic, vegan driven,
Right.
business. And
Yeah.
I was like, I think I told you, like, I was like, I see all the success in this.
Yeah.
And we've only seen, 2 years in a row, we've seen that you had Yelp's 100 places to eat. You've been on NBC, Channel 11. I
Yeah.
think that recognition is large for a business. Not everybody gets that.
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't know I'd come this far. There was a lot of challenges along the way. I was very outspoken about my challenges, not only
Yeah.
to you, but all the customers that were along the ride for the
I
journey.
love that
But,
transparency with anybody that I know.
yeah.
I think when you can tell people, because even in the public eye,
Yeah.
everybody sees you as successful,
Right.
as like a winner.
Yeah.
But you deal with these frustrations in the background. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like maybe like money's not always right at one point, or it's a slow season and this, that, and the third. Like, do you have one of those vulnerabilities that you're willing to share for like people watching that,
Everything, man. I put everything on my sleeve. And if there's anything I want people to learn from this podcast is this message. Is like, you know from firsthand experience, but like all these businesses that look glamorous on the outside, they look like they're busy all the time. I would say probably 80% of them are actually not doing too hot, or they're just barely surviving, or they're just doing it at this point just because it's like a side thing. You know what I mean? Or they have no other choice. It's the economy is not very favorable for businesses, especially after COVID and whatnot. And it's just so much that goes into a business, all the expenses and all that kind of stuff. So it's like instant successes are just so hard to find, and you have to be really, really lucky, especially in the food industry, to make it big within the first couple of years.
Absolutely.
So I'm working on year 4 now. We're going into year 4, and
they always say like if you make it past the 6-year mark here, you're good.
Dude, if you make it past, like 3 or 4 years, you're pretty good. But any other circumstance, if I had like a family or a relationship, I probably wouldn't have made it this far. Honestly,
it's tough.
We would have folded in 2 years.
No, I hear you because like you said, COVID. There was this coming out of COVID where it seemed like it was on the up and up because people were spending the money that they got back from the government and stuff like that. But then it kind of drifted way back down again. It was like there was this turbulence in the economy, and it's just been like feeling like we've been landing for the past 2 years.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it did break way for, just like when the economy collapsed back in 2008, and then like there was this huge power vacuum, and then like all these new businesses started to come in. I think we're getting some semblance of that, but like it's probably just starting right now. People are still struggling.
Do you feel like your purpose is bigger because even in politics now, you have a couple politicians fighting for better health in America and stuff like that. And I felt like your business in general, you're trying to change people's lives with the potency of what you sell as a product. So do you feel like you give into this business more than others because you're feeding the public on a positive level, or is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go back to the laundromat business. It was super profitable. Probably made a ton more money than I am right now, but this story. Like, it was never intrinsically valuable for me. I hated going to the laundromat and seeing people just miserable to come do their laundry. You know what I mean? So like, there was no value outside of money beyond that, and it made me miserable. I was probably the most depressed I ever was in my entire life when I was making the most money. Peak at like 24, 25.
I feel like people don't realize that. Like, I feel like they're always like, oh yeah, like the people that make the money, they're so happy. It's like, it's always the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have a totally opposite business now where we make probably a fraction of that. But like, it's a totally different business where people actually come to my store and they dance because they're so happy to get a bowl, and they dance on their way out. I'm just like, that makes such a huge difference for me to actually see that I'm impacting people's lives positively.
Exactly.
And it's like actually making them happy. It makes me happy.
No,
so
for
I'll
sure.
choose quality of work life over money any day.
Yeah. Everybody, you know what? The beauty about what you do is not only do you get that respect up front, anytime people spoke about your business behind you, it was always in a positive manner. Like, I can't wait to get my Boom Chia tomorrow, or this. Because like, I know a lot of people in town too, and like, anybody that spoke about Boom Chia in general was just like, I can't wait to go back. It's like you're an energy provider.
Well, I mean, I really, really appreciate it. And it makes all the work that I put in, worth it. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So if I were to trace back to year 1, I was working a little over 100 hours a week, which leaves me almost zero social life or sleep. And I was going to the fruit market at 4 a.m., waking up at 3:30, going there by 4, 3 times a week. And I had found out only tax season after that year that we had lost $30,000. And I was just like, it was cool because my partner at the time, he did a really good job, maybe a bad job.
Is this Ben?
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, he's no
Shout
longer,
out to Ben.
He's no longer with us right now.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, he did a good job or a bad job in terms of telling me the truth about our finances. And he kind of peppered in kind of like some positive talk. He's like, we'll be good.
Yeah.
But then, I never really knew the true fact of the matter that we were actually losing money. And to know that you're putting, and that year I worked 363 days outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So literally not even a day off, 100 hours a week.
How does that like affect your mental? Like,
Oh, dude, when I found out tax season like March the following year that we lost 30,000, I didn't even make $1.
Jesus.
And all my employees were just making tons of money, you know, on top of like to think that your employees, base level employees, are making more than the owner, you know, themselves. It's like a ridiculous like thought, but it's actually a reality in so many businesses.
People don't realize that though, like that.
No, they don't, and they still won't believe me after I tell them.
No, that's why I'm saying, like, that's why I'm like, this podcast, you know, people like yourself give these truths, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, you have to be woke that this is not, you know, what it seems from the outside. You're all wearing rose-colored glasses, and you're seeing, you know, people even who are driving nice cars as business owners.
Yeah.
I don't think they can afford that.
No, it's true. You know what? You said something one time. You said, you know, kind of on the same context line where you said, we see a lot of successful business owners, but they're like, they've borrowed money from 6 different investors and they're indebted to those investors.
Yes.
And, you know, like you mentioned you had an Aston Martin at one time, right, in your career?
No, I wish I did. I had a guy park an Aston Martin right next to my spot.
Gotcha.
And it made me feel somewhat like vicariously half special that he was in the same vicinity as I was.
Yeah. No, it's like, I mean, that's like one of my dream cars, but like at the same time, I think even if I had the money, now that we're at a different level of understanding about the industry or our industries, it's not like something I would invest in.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know? Car especially not. But
no.
You know, sometimes business owners feel like they have to uphold like their status and drive something that's semblance of like, you know, what they stand for.
Yeah, because I feel like there's this new thing where it's like you could be like an owner of a restaurant, but now you drive your celebrity fame. Yeah. Because I guess Instagram is a thing, TikTok is a thing. So it's like, for me, like I see it in a positive sense, like, you know, people like yourself, like all my colleagues, all my friends that are successful, like you guys are the stars in my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you guys, this is why I wanted to create this platform. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I see it in a positive sense, not like you're milking the game just for that aspect. Right. But it's like, as a restaurant owner, you are like one of the Jay-Z's to me. You know what I'm saying? Dude. Like maybe not use that. Maybe not use Jay-Z right now. No, but Jay-Z's, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like you're just one of those guys that's just like, let's cheers to that.
Oh, dude. See, this is why I continue to do what I do. You know, because people like you, man. Like,
no, I appreciate it. Now, like, what keeps you like hopeful, or like what other future ideas are on the horizon? Are you looking to expand solely on Boom Chia? And you know what? For everybody who's watching, explain what Boom Chia is. I know I've just been spewing it out, but I want them to get the idea of what Boom Chia is.
Yeah, I'll give a little summary about what my business is, and then I'm gonna tell you something really, really interesting. I just came back from Brazil. Yes. And it's a divine, like, I guess, like, thought process I had. Let me get to that.
Absolutely.
But, Boom Chia is basically we do acai bowls. We specialize in acai bowls. We have a lot of other flavors too.
Acai comes from Brazil, correct?
Acai comes from Brazil, and I was just there for some research.
Crazy.
We'll get to that. But I mean, I wanted to kind of build, you know, there's a ton of acai bowl places around here, and America has done a pretty bad job of making it kind of more like a dessert than anything else. And, you know, I wanted to kind of keep acai, which is one of the healthiest berries on the planet, you know, enhance it with other healthy food. Yes. You know, like superfood toppings and whatnot. And we also at the same time kind of wanted to make it fun. Like that's why we named it Boom Chia, onomatopoeia, catch your attention. And then, you know, chia obviously is a huge like ingredient that I'm a huge proponent for because it has a ton of protein, you know, fiber and whatnot. So like I wanted to create a bowl that's fun to look at, fun to eat, and also at the same time nourish you, give you all the micronutrients, macronutrients that you need. Pretty much can be a meal replacement in and of itself. And so I was like, what better business idea at the time when I was thinking about it was someone being addicted to something that's actually healthy. Like, how many of those things do we have in our life other than like someone who's addicted to working out?
No, that's what I respected about you. I said your brand, you know, when I first tasted a Boom Chia bowl, it wasn't too sweet, which I love. Coming from like my background, European culture, because I know like even in like a lot of Asian desserts aren't that sweet.
Yeah.
Like I guess America is so used to like overdoing things when it comes to sugar content, and you also stay in the gym, you stay fit, you're knowledgeable, and you're sincere about your product. It's like you care about your product.
Yes, I care about my product and I care about what I'm putting into other people's bodies. You know what I mean? Like that's very, very, as Americans, we've been fooled by the entire food industry about like what's going on in our bodies. And that's all coming to light now.
Yeah.
But this country has done a great job of bastardizing almost everything.
Absolutely.
When it comes to peanut butter, like why are we putting sugar and salt in peanut butter and making it something it's not when bare peanut butter actually tastes way better than that?
It does.
And then we're just, America's done a great job of making us obsessed with sugarcane, processed sugar.
Yeah, it's like putting ice in this wine. It's like we're diluting its value.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I came back from Brazil, in Latin America, sugarcane juice is very popular, right? But they're just taking the actual raw organic sugarcane and they're just processing it into a machine, and then it just comes out, squeeze the juice out of it, and it's actually very, very healthy.
God, it's amazing. I had it the first time in DR,
right?
And I had it with lime,
right?
So refreshing.
America has even bastardized that,
exactly,
sugarcane itself, and I'm just like, dude. We're so good at screwing things up and then just making people obsessed with sugar.
How do you sell to a palate that is so used to that level? Like, I know that has to be challenging. Yeah.
We can't. There's a big demographic that we can't reach ever because they're just so ingrained in their palate's so ingrained in craving sugar.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone comes in and asks for Nutella, right? And Nutella is almost all palm oil and sugar. Yep. It's barely any hazelnut.
It's horrendous.
And I know if I have Nutella in my place, we'll probably increase profit by like 15%. I'm not going to lie. But I absolutely refuse to carry it just because I know how detrimental it is to the health. And it just basically just bastardizes the whole bowl.
Yeah.
It's like,
we're not gonna mention technically the I guess the rivals that utilize that in their chia bowls.
Yeah, I've made it my New Year's resolution to stop trying to put down other businesses, other people to make myself look better. So we'll focus on ourselves. But
would you ever remix something of I guess a hazelnut butter with cacao, some type of version of your health version of Nutella?
Yeah, so we made a dark chocolate cacao almond butter.
Beautiful.
That we have. So that's been kind of resembling Nutella and a lot healthier. It's a custom made nut butter for us.
Yeah.
So we have that, but again when it comes to those things, it's just like, bro, I would rather just fold my business than feed that junk to people.
No, so absolutely. That's kind of like that's your line in the sand.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of lines in the sand, man. Yeah. And if I were to have crossed a lot of those, I would probably be in a much better monetary place than I am right now. But it's not worth it.
No.
At what cause? We lose the entire reason why I set that business up in the first place. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
it's hard to be a man of integrity.
It is,
especially nowadays. Hard. I know.
We talked about it. There's been a lot of temptations.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I mean?
For sure.
In the gym, it's like, hey, should we try some steroids?
I know.
We can do 10 times the gains we're making right now.
Yeah, because you could always be bigger and better, and this, that, and the third, and you'll still get the same technical recognition, but
and do it in a fraction of the time.
I know.
It's so tempting, right? And in business, it's the same way. Hey, we can do so many things, and I know so many other businesses that would do dirty things to get themselves on top and then bring someone else down, and that's a tactic, right?
Yeah.
And to take part in any of that foul play is you're losing the integrity in yourself, and what do you stand for at that point?
I think also not only do you not cross those lines, you've mentioned before, you've let other businesses live around you, and you haven't taken on certain things that you could to build your business so they could survive. There was one point you said, I can make smoothies, I can do this, that, and the third, but the business across the streets needs it. And like I said, man, that's it's a big decision. 2, you're not hurting yourself. but you could be making that profit.
Absolutely. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. And when business owners kind of look at each other from across the street or, besides each other, they're just like, him doing business during lunch is taking away business from me, right? Someone might look at it that way. For me, it's like, dude, every one of us on this street are busting our ass just to make a freaking living.
For sure.
We're just surviving out here. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care if we're in the same industry. Like, I know what you've gone through to get to where you are right now, and I respect that. And I'm not gonna, try to foul play and, cut corners so that I can cut you out and make myself better. Like, for me, it's like, dude, you're my compadre. Like, we're in this together.
For
like,
sure.
let's survive. That's it.
No, and I think that's another reason why maybe it's not true like across the board, but I think like Asian families, you see a lot of cultures that like that bond is strong.
Yes.
And I think
there's a human aspect to it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you respect that human aspect, and empathize.
Yes.
Empathy
is huge.
It's huge.
It's like it's the thing on the on our, I guess, like on the evolution chart, like as humans, it's like that's a big responsibility.
It is. It's the most powerful, I guess, I don't know if it's like a skill to have empathy, but it is the most powerful emotion you can have.
Yeah.
It's like the key to everything, understanding anything.
Do you feel like a lot of people, I personally feel like a lot of people are lacking that nowadays?
Empathy?
Yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
Empathy? Yeah. I think so.
I think like when you go on your travels, I feel like you see probably, you always get the sense like you're on vacation and stuff, but I feel like that energy, that pureness can still be found a lot around the world.
Yeah.
Probably, probably in a lot of the Latin cultures as well.
Yes.
And it's nice. I think that's refreshing. Not only a vacation, it reminds you that the world is turning to a different beat, versus just New Jersey, like, let me get my bowl, let me get back to my job.
Yes.
Let me blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Someone on the complete flip side of this earth in China is growing up in a completely different environment with completely different food, music, culture than you are. And, we were living in a time a couple decades ago where we look at them and be like, that's different and, that's stupid. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But now we're fortunate to kind of have this massive globalization, and especially in New York where we live in a giant melting pot.
Yeah.
It's like it's easier for us to empathize for those cultures because now it's like, dude, that's cool. I kind of want to experience that. And then you end up traveling to those places and you immerse yourself in that culture, that food, that music. And then you're just like, dude, I feel like I'm living another short tidbit of a life within this really short one life that we have as one person. You know what I mean?
It's cool because I feel like everybody comes from like different universes in that sense. So like even you having a Korean background, when you think about even like how you guys eat normally when it comes to like kimchi, which is like a probiotic in nature, and like, you have a well-balanced diet with the proteins and this, that, and the third. For sure, we all have our quote-unquote junk foods in our culture, but like I think that's pretty dope that it's like, from France, I'm like, okay, let me show you this type of design lifestyle, and you're coming in and you're like, okay, let me show you this, and I like that's what makes the world so interesting.
It is. There's so much to learn from too. I remember when you told me that you went to visit your father in France, and he was cooking all this stuff from just like whole ingredients.
Yeah.
It was just so enlightening to me. I was just like, man, that's so freaking awesome.
The smell of a sweet potato or a carrot, or the dense nutrients that are still found in that produce versus here.
Yes.
It's like, wow, like I have energy when I leave like lunch versus here I'm like, I'm dragging.
Yes.
So
dude,
like
a strawberry should smell very, a strawberry should smell like a strawberry, but like,
even on a smaller scale.
Yes. With all the pesticides that we have in America, like you can't even smell a strawberry anymore.
Talk to him, Josh. Talk to him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm fortunate that I was raised in a Korean family where like, we do have a lot of probiotics in our food. We don't like sugar in our food.
Yeah.
So like there's a story like as I was growing up, my parents would never let me have soda in the house. We never had Coca-Cola,
No.
any sort of like not even orange juice in the house that had sugar. And I remember when I would visit my like white friends' families, and
Like soda.
bro, he would have a fridge stocked with soda in his room, and I'd be like, dude, this is the coolest fucking place I've ever been to. I want to come here every fucking day so I could just chug fucking Coca-Colas.
Right.
And then I remember going back to my house and I'd be like, dude, this is the most whack fridge I've ever, this is so stupid, mom. Like, can I go get freaking Coca-Cola? No, absolutely not. And then now I look back at it in retrospect and I'm like, bro, that is what saved me from freaking potential diabetes and, all this like sugar craving madness that people have in this society.
It's true. It's true.
It's like, I'm not used to that. So even to this day, I don't have soda. Even when I can, I'm an adult. I could buy whatever the fuck I want. But like, I don't have that shit in my
Same
fridge.
thing. I think like growing up too, like I show gratitude to my mother because she was like, she was always on like the health food, advances before they came out. So like there was a health food store in Montclair. And when we first came from France, like, even though like a lot of things we find today, like soys and stuff, they were the first one doing like soy milk, rice pudding. And like they had, all different type of chocolates and this, that, and the third and veggie burgers. And, I grew up on kale. I grew up on a lot of like, my doctor was Trinidadian, but they were health conscious.
Okay.
So everything was like super clean at the time. And same thing, like I didn't grow up with soda.
Yeah.
Like the only times I tried those things, it was like, when my parents split, like my dad, he would let me buy anything on the weekends. So like we would go to like a Pathmark and like I would try like those little microwavable bags of like, what is that? Green Giant, like cheddar rice with broccoli. Cause like the white kids too, at like my school had that in their thermos or whatever, but I never tasted it. Cause like, but I love the steps that, like my family took.
Right.
To always make a home cooked meal and something, again, that was, plentiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's dope.
So that's that was a huge influence in the bowls that I have at Boom Chia. By the way, going back to Brazil, bro, I found out that my business name is Boom Chia, and I actually thought of that because we ran into a trademark issue with our previous name, which was just Goji Superfoods. We found out there was another one in Jersey.
Okay.
And in 1 week, we had already made the sign, and I had to
Jesus.
like come up with the name. And I was like, I'm going to come up with a freaking name that no one is going to copy. And it's not even a name. So I came up with Boom Chia randomly, right?
I love it.
Dude, I went to Brazil and I didn't know in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese or whatnot, that good morning is Boom Chia.
Wow.
It's Boom Chia. And when people say it with that accent,
that's crazy.
in an American accent, like an English accent, it sounds like Boom Chia. So
wow.
When I first touched down in Brazil and people were like, Boom Chia, Boom Chia, Boom Chia, I was like, how the fuck do you know my business name? Like, how do you know me? How do you know Boom Chia?
That's amazing.
Then after the first few interactions, I was actually like tripping out. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how does this person know me? And then I found out, I was so naive. I didn't know. And I was like, dude, this must be like a divine, like kind of like inspiration that I got at the time that I had no idea about. And then my friends were like, yeah, like our kids, they watch like these learning shows with different languages, and we heard like something that sounded like Boom Chia.
But see, like when even though it was random, you need a last minute name. That divine, beam of light came into your mind, and like now that finding that connection,
now we have a meaning for Boom Chia.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so dope. That's so dope.
Good morning in Portuguese, the land of acai.
What other one of those? Because that's so fire. That's so fire. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Damn. That's, again, the acai, the good morning. Wow. The sun is rising on everybody. That's so dope. So dope. Yeah, what was one of the highlights of your trip?
I mean, Brazil is a country where you can feel the energy around you. It's so tangible, especially when you're on like the beach. Like they have just so much culture there. The best places that I've traveled amongst like the 65 countries that I've been to are the places that just ooze culture. And some of them are more cliche, like Italy and like Thailand.
For sure.
You can smell, the food in the air. You can smell the culture in you can feel the culture around you through the music and the way people interact. And it's just like, oh man, like Brazil is one of those countries where I was just like, dude, I could feel this energy like everywhere
my brother speaks so highly. Like he's well traveled as well, and he just loves Rio and Brazil. He's like, that's where I want my apartment. So one of us has to get a place over there so we can all be like, chilling, in 2030 and be, afterwards. It's
dude, absolutely, man. And I was never into like soccer before like I realized like that's all they live and breathe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, that's crazy. I want to get into soccer now.
I hear the women are top notch in Brazil.
There were some things that were underwhelming in Rio, such as like maybe the food culture wasn't as like robust as I thought it would be compared to America. However, the women were absolutely above what I thought they would be, man. They're insane.
What's your top three? Like, I feel like everybody has this like thing that like maybe Korean guys just other Korean girls, which might be true.
Yes.
But tell them how you feel.
Oh, dude, I'm a different Korean man. As you can see, I go on a different wavelength. I grew up playing football and wrestling as my sports.
Nice.
Most of the Koreans are doing golf and tennis, and I live my whole life. I'm not like kind of like whitewashed, but more so like I was more flexible to go beyond my culture. And now top three as in what, women?
Yeah, I was gonna say like what do you appreciate? I guess in a woman, or like maybe like
I'm on that like Latin American grind right now, dude. I feel like they have the spice that I'm looking for in a woman. And Koreans, we have spicy food. We don't have spicy women for and
when I think about like Asian culture, I think like the women are feminine.
They're very feminine, and they're. I don't have anything against Koreans, but I've had bad experiences with the burden of being what I was asked to be growing up under my parents.
Gotcha, with somebody else.
With my girlfriend's parents or my fiance's parents and it's even worse. It's like if my parents wanted me to be a doctor and like a lawyer, like they're expecting the same thing, and it's like. Why am I getting this double burden, to be someone? And if I'm not, and that's how I was with my ex, like I was like, I wasn't one of those. I was just a business owner who had like a risky job. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that. And I was like, okay, like this is who I am.
Yeah, I feel like that's a downfall for a lot of like my Asian friends, especially like a couple Indian friends I have, like that. Took a route like you did. They're artists or they're musicians, and it's just like they're great at what they do.
Right.
But like the expectation is heavy.
It's so heavy. But I think the culture is kind of changing. Like my parents now are kind of like getting around the fact that, hey, there isn't just one form of intelligence. There isn't just one form of being successful. Like that comes in different shapes, sizes, and colors. And they're only starting to realize that recently after they kind of saw my journey through all of this.
It's beautiful how you become the enlightenment to the elders or the ones that are known as wise.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of unfortunate that it comes so late in their lives where they kind of have like that second like realization.
Yeah.
But it's also like, they've lived their life so like one way for their entire lives. And all their mission was to provide for their children and make sure that they were successful. They kind of sacrificed their entire life for that. So there's, you can understand why they're that way, and you can't really blame them for that.
Exactly.
But it's like cool now to kind of even at the end of the road, like, for them to realize that.
There's that duality, that parallel too, because even though you might not have family yet of your own, you're still doing this for yourself, for your family, for the betterment of a lot of people's futures.
Yeah.
And it could easily slip away.
Yeah.
But you've built this strength.
Right.
So at least hold on as long as you can.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel that way too.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
No, but so when you were in Brazil, that was an incredible story, by the way. Is there other places in the world that you haven't visited that you feel that you can pull from in the future? Like maybe like there's something, you know, a place that you want to travel that you want to understand more.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I want to visit Africa.
Nice.
Yeah, because I haven't hit the major continents of Africa and Australia yet. Done a lot of traveling in like Europe, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Latin America. But I think that's kind of like my big journey that I want to go on to see, like, you know, that's where all the stories of people really, really struggling come from. So it's like to go to those places, like, you know, we've been to the ghettos in like different, like, you know, poorer countries, but like Africa is like, dude, they're literally living in the fields. Like,
No if you go
water.
to places like Senegal and this, that, and the third, it's like, you know, it could get rough. But there also is an energy that like is yet to be experienced, you know?
I want to experience that, man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'll learn so much from it. So,
Absolutely.
you know, that's definitely one of the places I want to hit.
Was there ever a place that you visited that was like you had a certain expectation in your head, but it wasn't up to par?
Oh, wow. Am I going to do this, dude?
You are. You're well-traveled. You've been to like 65 different countries.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this from certain people, dude.
Again, it's all perspective. You know what it is? Like, if people still think their country is art, he's not into your art.
So an overrated country, you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
God.
It could even be France. I don't give a fuck.
No. France is top tier, bro. Top tier. I'm not gonna do that to you. There are, but this was when I was young. Okay. So a lot has probably changed. Like when I went to Japan, there's this whole like Korea versus Japan debate, and I was trying to be as biased as possible, even to this day, because we're always kind of like measuring ourselves.
This is a fun fact because I don't even know this.
Yeah, Korea is now like at a place where like we can finally compete with Japan and be like, hey, in certain aspects, we're cooler than you, motherfuckers.
Yeah,
and
right.
then, you know, we all kind of look at, you know, the Chinese culture and we're just like they're so different from us. They're not competing with us, but like, you know,
until I really dug deeper into Korean culture, there is this like refinement that it also holds that the Japanese had for a long time.
Yes.
But I'm like, like you start seeing it. I have this
controversial like comparison to, this is for the Latin American audience that's listening.
Yes.
And it might not be 100%, but like I've done a lot of like fact checking in terms of like I've traveled a lot in Latin America recently, 8 countries in like 2 years. So like I could kind of compare with East Asia. And I'm like, China is like Mexico. You know, very well known globally. You know, there's a lot of them. Right? I won't go into the negatives. You know, we'll go into more like positive. They have very like flourishing, you know, culture and cuisine, right? Korea is more like Colombia right now.
Interesting.
On the up and up, right? We're kind of like the cool country, and Colombia is having
music. Even like you have the J Balvin's emerging and stuff.
Colombia is having their moment to shine right now.
You know
it's
true.
I mean? Like especially music, right? Food. Right? Colombia probably has the best food in Latin America outside of Mexico, probably in my opinion. And then Japan is like Spain. Spain is kind of looked at amongst at least the Latin American countries. When they look at Spain, it's like a very clean, like well put together country. They have a little bitterness.
I gave you your fancy blood type of vibe.
They do have a little bitterness towards them because like they colonized everyone, and like they still have kind of like that superiority like mentality.
Yeah, it's even in like I learned from the Dominican culture. That like that's a lot of reason why the Europeans came, because they had like their own Hitler,
right,
and like he's like, oh, you can have free land, and then that colonization was a big part of their history,
right. And Japan had a little bit of that too. They took over, you know, Korea at one time, and like, you know, they're right now the role model kind of country in Asia where they're super clean, you know, super well put together, good manners, very like upper class, like.
Even from like the camera industry, it's like something's made in Japan. It's like, oh, like
you trust it
exactly
immediately. So
like you feel like the structure of the design and like the techniques and like, you know, like all that. It's like it's well cared for.
Yeah. So going back to like an underwhelming country, when I went there, dude, I went in high school.
Drum roll.
I went in high school, so don't. I'm not gonna judge it.
But this is your personal experience. It's how it hits you.
It was so underwhelming, man. I went to Tokyo, and you know, the food was so bland. I was like, bro,
maybe because it's more generic.
Hey, and I'm kind of being a hypocrite right now because like I'm used to westernized Japanese food.
Yeah,
The bastardized version.
Exactly.
And maybe they were making it a little spicier and sweeter for me to enjoy. Like, and Japanese food isn't that. It's just pure.
Do
You know what I mean?
Japanese people like look at you and they're like, oh, this Korean guy?
Bro, when I went to Japan, this is another reason why I hated it because I spoke Japanese at the time, very little.
Gotcha.
I took 7 years in school, and it was very like survival.
Yeah.
But when I went there and I I tried to speak Japanese to people,
Mm-hmm.
people looked at me and they thought, they assumed I was Japanese. And they're just like, this guy's just stupid. Like, this guy's this Japanese guy. I
don't like
who
this
can't even
Japanese
speak our
guy.
own fucking language. And I'm just like, yo, if you're an Asian person, Chinese or Korean, don't try to learn Japanese because you're just going to go to it's like probably like a Hispanic American that grew up in America going to Latin America and then trying to speak Spanish, and then it's like broken
Or
Spanish.
like a Portuguese type of vibe. And it's like, nah, don't try it.
And they're like, what the fuck is going on? This guy looks like me, but he can't speak my language.
That's crazy.
And it's like they judge you straight off the bat. Whereas if I'm Korean and I go to Latin America and I'm like speaking Spanish, they're like, oh, that's fucking cool. Like this guy knows our language. But then it's like, if I look like that,
and then
I
you can
can't
have
speak
like
the
this
language.
bravado, like walking in the streets is mad different.
So when I was in Japan, I got mad glares. They're like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, he can't even speak our fucking language. He looks like us. And so
how is it like going? Because like even like when you think about like the Chinese of how they make their way into Jamaica, how they made that, like I had some of like even the way the Chinese flip and make their food acceptable by the Dominican culture.
Yeah.
They have this place called like Pica Pollo.
Yeah.
And they make like fried chicken, fried rice, but then they have like the tostones and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you see Koreans doing anything similar like that?
No,
it's not their vibe.
China's really good at that.
Yeah.
China did that in DR. They did that in Puerto Rico, and they did that mainly in Peru. Where like the cuisine is so intertwined now. Peruvians have like dishes that are named after.
Do you ever
Chinese
get like an
dishes.
ignorance while traveling in Latin countries that like they just call you like
Chino?
Chino?
Oh fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And now I finally empathized and realized, and I'm speaking to a lot of Latin Americans, and they're telling me it's not because we just think you're Chinese. That's just how we call you guys.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're Japanese.
Yeah,
or
and
Korean.
it has more to do with like the eye slanting.
Exactly.
I was like, that's racist as fuck.
Yeah,
But, like,
right.
That's all they know.
But it's all love.
It's all love. It's really all out of love. And
Yeah.
now I finally have accepted that. Whereas before, when I had my laundromat,
You were kind of triggered by it.
I was so triggered. All my customers were Hispanic. And they were like, Chino. And I was like, bro, I ain't no fucking Chino. I'm Coreano. And they're like, what the fuck is that? It's Chino to me.
No, it's
and
crazy.
I'm just like, now I know it's all out of love.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the Chinese people. They do a really good job of camouflaging whatever the culture they go to, and then just kind of just making their version of whatever it is, and still making it kind of very Chinese, and that's why they're so successful. You know, Chinese
for sure.
are probably the biggest powerhouse in the world right now because of those reasons, right?
That's true.
You know, Koreans don't really do that. Japanese, wherever they kind of settle down, they're very low key. They're quiet.
They're
They keep
reserved.
you don't even know they're there.
No.
Very respectful. So it's
Yeah.
like so different, like, you know, different cultures in Asia.
Is there anything else you could see yourself, like, could you have seen yourself doing anything else in this life outside of what you do? Where it's like, is there like this other eager part of Josh that's like, if I drop this all today, I would do this?
I think this is exactly what I wanted to do. You know, it was a blend of my passion for fitness and nutrition, like good food, and I wanted to kind of bring that together. And then I think we're going into a very powerful health movement in terms of, you know, you see a lot of products these days that are healthy. They're kind of utilizing good marketing these days to kind of look flashy and like look presentable, colorful, and like fun for kids. And this is a whole nother topic of itself, but it's like now finally we are starting to understand that kids need to start eating healthy at a young age instead of what we've been seeing up to this point where we're like, kids are already healthy, so they can eat whatever they want, junk food, candy, whatever, and they can get away with it, right?
And their system jumps back a lot quicker.
And that's what our parents, like as parents, we were just like, yeah, they can
I
get
think,
away
but
with
then
this.
I think the new generation of parents cave into just like trying to shut up their child, and they'll feed them something of poor nutrient value versus taking them to a Boom Chia. And even though it could be so delightful to their palate, but it's also still great in a nutrition sense that
But when, like when they bring their kids to Boom Chia, they're trying to trick them that it's ice cream, right?
Yeah, I know.
And then they're like, oh, like we can actually trick them into eating healthy.
Yeah.
But I think along that thought process, they're starting to understand, why do we have to trick our child to eat healthy? You know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I think now we're on the cusp of this breakthrough where like parents are starting to realize, like, especially with the whole neuroplasticity, education and awareness now, like kids need to start eating at a healthy at a young age in order to become the healthy adult that they're supposed to become. But because we've neglected that up to this point, maybe all these like mental health issues and all that kind of stuff at an adolescent age is stemming from the diet that they had as a child.
I saw it at points like growing up, I didn't always have the chance of living in the best areas. So like I saw like, in the hood,
right.
Unfortunately, there's so many things that inflame the body, right? You have high sugar, high fat, bad fat at that. And like people are aggravated. And I noticed even me, like when I went to college and I was eating poorly, it was a lot of fried foods and certain budget. I was always like aggravated to a certain extent. Yeah. And I saw it in my body. So I think when you're forward thinking and, you almost have the roots like you explained to me, like from, how you grew up, like you didn't have soda and this and that. I think it can help build, a generation of people that work hard like yourself, that bring ideas to the market that might not be just accepted off the bat, but are a necessity in society.
Yeah.
And that's more important in the long run.
Yeah.
Than, these get a quick buck, be out. I don't care about everybody. And that stems right back to what we're talking about humanity. Yeah. I think that's what's lacking in humanity.
Right.
It's like it's here today, gone tomorrow, and I don't care.
Right.
So saying all that, is there something that you wish for in your personal life outside of all the business, entrepreneurship? Like what do you look for? What makes you the happiest?
Dude, this is such a cool segue because we were talking about this right before we hopped onto this podcast. Yeah. I was just thinking about it today. Okay. And I was like, I met this girl when I was in Brazil and I was just like, hey man, maybe I should like travel with her and stuff. And I was just like, you know what? I should, because there's nothing more worth it in this life than love.
That's beautiful.
And I've been single for quite a while now after I had a big breakup with my ex-fiance. And
you know what was great too? The people don't know it, but we helped each other get through a lot of breakup moments. We went through very hardcore breakups in our personal
summer talks that we had outside my store and inside my store were just like, dude, those are everything, man. We look back and I'm just like, it's hard to have those conversations. It was with people so hard, day to day, like passing by. And I appreciate those moments I had with you, Rich.
Same,
really,
man.
I really did. And you're a special person for me to be able to open up like that. But yeah, back to my fiance, like, breaking up with her, like, I lost love for a long time. And now I'm kind of looking at myself and I'm on a pinch with my schedule and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just like, wow, like if I were to sacrifice $1 here or there, or like, whatever, I would pursue love, as cheesy as it sounds, because that's all we're living for, man. We at the end of my life, if I were to look back, the only thing I wish I would have accomplished more than anything else is like, I wish I could have loved as many people as I could have and was loved by as many people that I could have been loved by. And like, I think that is the most enriching part of life.
That's beautifully said.
So, yeah, man, love. Yeah, that's all. That's it.
I think it's the segue to it's another love is a intangible. Yeah. That's also a segue still to health and survival.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It's all intertwined. Yeah. It all works together in a beautiful way.
Yeah. If you spoke to an acai, bush with love, I guess it's a bush, right? Is it a acai?
It's a berry. Yeah.
It's a bush. Yeah. So it's like, you speak to it with love, or there's good energy. And I think like you said, Brazil, there's good energy. So something so potent and so good for your health comes from something of a vibrant, culture is cool.
Hey, were you thrown off by my answer?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think
Was that off scripted?
No. I think that was one of the most pure answers I've received on this podcast.
Really?
And I'm very appreciative for it.
I was just thinking back and I was like, that's cliche as fuck.
No. I think you know what, because cliche is like, a French term. But I think cliche is just, for me, yes, it's a usual answer, but there's nothing else you can say sometimes.
Yeah.
I think we find the answers in simplicity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to overdo life. We try to make something simple complex when you should just leave it simple.
Yeah.
Like, why add too much sugar to like acai? It's like makeup. Makeup should emphasize a woman's already, the beauty she already has.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, love should emphasize already what's, what you have individually and together. Like, that's all it should do.
You don't need money to buy it.
You don't.
It's available to everyone.
Yes.
We obsess with money. We obsess with all these tangible things, but the one true intangible thing that's available to everyone. Yeah. Dude, that's all we need in life.
Yeah. It's because
I'm starting to realize that. I don't want an Aston Martin. I don't want fucking, to drive a Ferrari and have like a super successful business.
Yeah.
What's all that if I can't have love?
Because like it's like hopefully those those stacks of dollar bills will talk to you when you're on your way out at the hospital.
Yeah.
Or on your deathbed. It's like,
exactly.
That's important. And yeah, family is everything.
Family, relationships.
Yeah.
Dude, like, hug your fucking mom, tomorrow and just be like, I love you. And
exactly.
Like, oh man, I need more of it.
Absolutely.
More. And I'm gonna seek and pursue more of that in the coming years, and maybe I'll go out of business along the way.
No, it's fine. But you know what? If I see you go out of business, I'm gonna be like, Josh did it. I'm still gonna be like, Josh did it. You found your true purpose. You found your happiness.
I appreciate that you see that in me. Like, me being like a nomad and living all these different places and doing, traveling and stuff. But like, and doing all these random businesses and whatnot. I appreciate that you appreciate that I'm just pursuing what I feel like.
No, and I think those are the atoms around the nucleus of like God energy or whatever you want to call it that make everything possible. Because you can either take the route, because it's singularity. You could be Hitler or Gandhi. And it doesn't matter, but you can leave your imprint on this world. And if it's just starting where maybe you took somebody out of having high blood pressure through your product and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Somebody was 2 steps away from cancer, but you diluted it from getting there.
Yeah.
And that to me is 10 times more powerful in the interim. Whether you're Korean, Brazilian, French, it doesn't matter. It's like humanity.
Yeah. That's
the culture.
Yep.
That we're trying to keep alive.
That's all out of love, baby.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I want to leave the podcast right there.
Yeah.
I feel like that, what you said before we wrapped up and just like this whole idea, I think that being cliche or simple enough, it's beautiful though.
We're going to talk about this for hours upon hours after this podcast.
We are. But you know what? I still want to give you the stage.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to share with the viewers before, we off air?
Yeah, I mean, we need more genuineness, in this world. And I think as long as you're true to yourself, it heals a lot.
Absolutely.
To other people.
Yes.
And it heals a lot within yourself.
Yes.
Being genuine and just being your true self with whatever you want to do, even if it's exploiting your insecurities, it's a refreshing breath of fresh air, because once you do let it out, your genuineness, you'll realize like most people didn't really care that, it was that way in the first place. You know what I mean? And the ones who do care are going to be looking out for you. They're going to be like, dude, good fucking job. Like, like I'm proud of you for expressing that, hey, like I've been struggling with, weight issues my whole life, or, you're struggling with this and that. And it's like, dude, like I think our relationship, you and I, is just so pure because like we've never once hesitated to exploit our insecurities,
No, absolutely.
to compromise who we really are.
Yeah. And I think that built a world of like being less tense in general.
Built trust too.
Trust, yeah, which is
I
huge.
trust you straight off the bat. You trust me straight off the bat to not try to be someone we're not. And
And there was no shame.
Yeah.
And it just built for like those conversations lets us know how fragile life is.
Yeah, it is.
Rather than always, like you said, exploiting this persona of like everything's fine. Because it's not. Because I think the beauty is in the balance. You know, for every sunset we have the moon come up and vice versa, and it's continual change. And I think that's where we can really appreciate the moments of sunshine, even in darkness. You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes around.
It's a patient game and it's a long game, but more people in the end will appreciate that than people not. You know
exactly.
what I mean? And in your business line of work too, you're genuine with what you do. You're very transparent.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're gonna fucking take off one day because people are gonna be like, dude, this is real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like me too. Everything I do, business, you know, person, relationships, whatnot, genuinity.
I think sincerity is the stock you should invest in.
Yes. That's a perfect place to leave off this, or just leave it at that, this podcast.
Once again, I've had the pleasure and the honor of speaking today. May I say your last name correct? It's Beck.
Beck, yeah.
So today I have Josh Beck, owner of Boom Chia, owner of Love, and the future owner of Prosperity. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I would like you to like, subscribe, and continue to support the Chez Parlay podcast. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Peace.